Faster, cheaper, more transparent and more accessible cross-border payments are critical for areas including financial stability, trade, remittances and financial inclusion. Achieving the G20's payment vision benefits the entire global financial ecosystem.
And to gauge progress towards that G20 vision, look at what remains to be done and how all of that can be achieved, I'm delighted to welcome Martin Moloney, Deputy Secretary General of the Financial Stability Board, and Inge van Dijk, who is Director of Payments, Cash and Market Infrastructure at the Dutch Central Bank. And importantly for this discussion, she is also co-chair of the Payments, Interoperability and Extension Taskforce Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructures at the Bank of International Settlements. Bit of a mouthful, but wonderful to have you both here. Welcome to Sibos TV.
It is a pleasure. Thank you.
Now, Martin, we'll come to you first. For viewers who may not be familiar, could we start with a quick overview of the G20 cross-border payments program? What is it exactly and why does it matter?
So it goes back to 2020. If you can remember back that far, there was a Libra project done by Facebook, and around the same time there was a lot of research showing that the correspondent banking system wasn't working so well, particularly in Pacific Islands and some other parts of the world. And there was a real concern that the system was fraying at the edges and wasn't working properly, and the G20 decided under the Saudi Arabian presidency they wanted to do something about it. They asked the FSB to coordinate, to work with other organizations and try to put together a program to try to make it faster, to make it cheaper and to make it more transparent. We did that at that time, and we've been working through that plan ever since, and we're getting towards the 2027 deadline. A couple more years to go. We're getting there and making some progress, but there's still a long way to go.
Inge, if I can bring you in, but this is a question for both of you, so it'd be interesting to hear both your takes. But what role does FSB play in driving this programme forward, and how about the CPMI? In fact, it says here, Martin, let's get your thoughts on that first. So maybe we'll start with you and move along.
Yeah, so we've divided up the work among us and done so on a very friendly basis, and we brought in lots of other partners. It isn't even just the two of us doing it. There's other people involved in doing this as well. The core of what we do is we provide the coordinating role. We work with the CPMI, we work with the OECD, we work with the IMF and the World Bank and with FATF and with others, try to get them all coordinated and moving in the same direction. And we've also taken some of the work on ourselves in relation to legal and regulatory issues to try to improve the situation in relation to that, get rid of some of the obstacles that there are in the different ways regulation is done around the world. And we then also occasionally nudge some of our partners and ask them what they're up to and figure out what we can do better together.
Let's nudge one of your partners here and get your take, Inge, if we can.
Yes, so on the CPMI, I think we've been in this boat together ever since 2020. CPMI, of course, has a mandate to foster the safety of payments and the efficiency of payments. So this roadmap on cross-border payments fits quite well into that mandate. And our goal is much more on the standard side. We are the global standard setter for payments, clearing and settlement, and everything pretty much related. So one might argue it's a bit the technical side, but it's a very important technical side that makes everything work well. So on this element, we've been looking at 4 elements from our side to contribute to the G20 roadmap, which is fostering the interoperability through open access, so making sure that banks and non-banks can participate, to see what we can do on operating hours. Do we have to extend them? How far do we have to extend them? On interlinking of faster payments, and the most important thing on the ISO 20022, making sure that we have that harmonized and that we contribute in making payments run faster through the system. So those are the elements that we've been looking at from the start also.
Inge, if I may follow up with you there, cross-border payments actually mean very different things to different users. We can talk about wholesale to retail to remittances. And how are you segmenting the program to suit all these different use cases?
Yes, well, I say from a technical perspective, whether we have a wholesale use case on the payments rail, so to speak, or whether we have a remittance case, really doesn't matter so much from the technical point of view. I think that Martin can shed some light on the use cases and the experiences there. But if you look at our position from that perspective. We really look at the ISO 20022 harmonization. We've had that for some time, but everybody's done it a bit different in the world. So how do you connect the dots together? And there we're making really good progress in terms of getting both the industry participants on board with a task force, and that was the task force that was on the board, the PI task force we call it, which is a task force of 40 industry leaders across the world who are really into the practicalities, both banks and non-banks, and who know how it works and what doesn't work. And this is combined with a group of market practice from central banks, 60 central bankers, who are also looking at how can we improve ISO 20, what can we learn from them, and how do we bring it to the table. So combining both of the efforts, from the industry efforts as well as from the central banking side, really making it a co-production is what really triggers the way forward, I would say, and making sure that we can meet a success, because otherwise, if alone as central bankers we are doing this, it's not going to work very well. We need the industry on board, and I think we have that organized in the CPMI right now.
It'd be good to get your take on that as well, Martin, if we can.
Yeah, I think actually it's interesting how again and again and again, as we've gone through the different issues, we keep on coming back to collaboration, trying to create new structures for collaboration with the industry, but also trying to create new structures for collaboration with other regulators. One of the most interesting things we've done is try to create a heightened collaboration with data protection regulators, who in a sense come from a different world than we come from. But they are important for cross-border payments. They're one of the sources of potential obstacles to the speed of payments. This issue of what information can you transfer across borders? Where does information need to be housed? So we have to create conversations with them, and we've been doing that recently. But really, the range of stakeholders you have to work with on this is quite immense. And that's one of the big challenges here. There is no single person in charge of cross-border payments. Everybody has to be at the table in order to make this work. And then everybody has to sort of learn some hard lessons and suck it up a little bit and work a little bit harder on some things that they might not want to, in order for us to make the kind of progress we want. And one of the things we do is actually try to measure that. You know, we produce these KPIs which actually measure where the world is in terms of speed and cost and transparency. And in that way we can mirror that back to all the participants in these conversations and have really focused conversations about what's working, what's not working, where do we need to make improvements.
Inge, the CPMI's 2023 report on linking fast payment system highlighted governance and oversight as particularly critical. How is that translated into something more tangible, real pilots or projects to make payments faster?
Yeah, very good question, because governance and oversight can be wary topics. But maybe just to go back a little bit. So I talked a bit about the ISO 20022 and the technicalities. And while that is always cumbersome, and I would say there the devil is in the detail, and the industry knows far better than I do that the devil is in the detail of the last purpose code and categories, to make that speed, to make that transparency, to have that really at the last mile delivered. But effectively, the governance and oversight is actually one of the key important things, especially these days. I would say it's increasingly more difficult. So we've launched the report in 2023 with some clear governance recommendations that center around the wonderful PFMI principles, which is really at the core of how you run payment systems, critical payment systems. But effectively, we translated that and lifted on experience that we gathered from the Business Innovation Hub on the one hand, and the Eurosystem, where I'm a part of the Target Services Board, on the other hand. In the Business Innovation Hub, we've seen that they have, of course, now come together and really set up a new company, Nexus Global Payments, with 5 wonderful Asian countries who are springing through the chance. They are now scaling up, building a platform based on interlinking faster payments, and they are delivering that, I think, 2027 to be operational. And on the other hand, within Target Services, we have the faster payment system of the Eurosystem, which we aim to connect globally and make sure that we lift also on the ISO 20022 and connect, for example, to Nexus, also connect using one leg out scheme so that other regions or communities from the world may connect to us. And we have also multi-currency in there. So, for example, today already we have the Swedish krona in there, the Danish krone and the Norwegian krone coming up in 2028. So effectively getting Europe all together. And I might argue that there are some countries also still on the take. And I think we will be able to learn something soon, but I'll leave that for now. But effectively, of course, it's about getting the cross-currency in and using the faster instant payments linking and putting that user experience that is, I think, now in 100 countries across the globe, that we effectively bring that to the table, because that could really, for remittances and for retail payments, make a very big difference. Because I think Martin will agree on wholesale, we have different discussions rather than on retail and remittances. It's on retail and remittances where we think with faster linking all these instant payment platforms, we can make progress quite soon. So that's how we translate it into something pragmatic. Sorry for the long answer.
No problem at all. Now, Martin, I see you nodding in agreement over there, but looking back, what would you say is your standout achievement so far? What would you pick?
Oh, goodness, I think you can't ask me that question. That's like asking a parent what's their favourite child. You know, so you're not allowed to say what your favourite child is, even if you have one.
One that lets you sleep more at night, I think.
I guess, look, the one that I'm particularly interested in is a very simple one that we've done, which is to try to break down the barriers between bank and non-bank access to payment systems. And that is the one I think has the greatest potential for the future. We have done this whole project in what I would say an agnostic way. We're not trying to pick winners. We're trying to create opportunities and let people take up those opportunities. What I particularly like about what we've done in that regard is that it opens up opportunities. Maybe it's opportunities for new technology. Maybe it's opportunities for new players using the old rails. Maybe it's opportunities for incumbents to do things in ways they haven't done before. That, to me, is one of the ones that I'm particularly interested in. But we don't have a favourite child.
Inge, last year we saw new recommendations on API harmonisation. How vital is it to align on standards and make cross-border payments work more smoothly?
It's crucial, I would say. If you have the right harmonization on the data requirements, then of course you can lift on that, and you can really tackle the small frictions that are in the value chain somewhere, and they're everywhere. So even within Europe, we had a different stance on ISO 20022, and that it just is across the globe. So also there, people have market infrastructures have different adaptations of, or they adapted ISO 20022 10 years ago. That's a different version from the one that we have today. So making sure that you understand the same language and that you talk in that same language is going to be vital to make that payment run fast and get within the hour to the other end of the world. And we're progressing slowly in that direction, but everybody needs to be on that page. And on the API harmonization, we sort of build on the ISO 20022 message, the standards, and then transformed it into APIs and really looked at the pre-validation of the payment. So reducing fraud, errors, combating the fraud in the system, making sure that when that payment runs through smoothly, we also have the right protection in place. So all of these elements need to be tied. And we're very fortunate to have a very good group of industry players at the table who is discussing that with us. So this are market infrastructures, there are banks, there are non-banks, there are associations, there are corporates. So all of the players at the table who know full well from all of the regions of the world what's at stake for them. So we have all of these angles coming together, and we trust that when we implement that into a new report later today, we will be effectively able to see how the implementation is going on, and then hopefully delivering by 2027 the end result. That's the goal, of course.
Well, it's great to see everyone on the same page, or at least at the same table. So cooperation between central banks, regulators, and the private sector is clearly key. What makes collaboration really work? And I think I'd love to get both of your takes on this, starting with you, Martin.
You know, I think we're actually coming to the nub of that at the moment, because we're in 2025, to state the obvious. We're getting close to 2027. And one of the key issues for us at this point is how do we step up the level of collaboration to get to actual results? We've put the fora in place. We've got people talking to each other. We've got the basic principles in place. But how do you move it on to the next level? And I think the answer to that is you need key players in the system who become the leaders of that collaboration. So that might be central banks in a jurisdiction, or central banks together in a region. It can be the BIS sometimes, who've taken the next step forward and has really helped all those countries to then move in their wake doing that. So for us at this point in time, what we're thinking a lot about is leadership within collaboration. How can we get to actually achieve real action plans that people will sign up to, that have clear deliverables and clear paths forward. We have been able to do a lot of the work we've done so far without that, but I think we're at this implementation phase point where we actually need to get people to really sign up and move forward together.
And Inge, on collaboration, what makes it really work?
Yeah, I can only echo Martin that leadership is the key thing here. And thank God we have some people also, both from the central banks, quite a number, I would say 60 central banks, alongside 40 large industry players stepping to the microphone. And of course, they need to make this happen. So if they lead to the table, we can make it work. But what I really like is that the commitment of the industry players, it doesn't really work if they're not sharing the initiative. And of course, for them, it's different. They will not want to achieve all of the goals that we set out to. Some may be more interested in the e-access, others are more interested in the faster part. But that's okay, as long as there's something for everybody at the table and they're all committed to making this whole endeavor a success. So that's what we need. And I think in this collaboration, the public-private party is essential. There's no way we could do this as public elements. We can just say, this is the way forward. We need you to step up to the microphone to make it better for the world.
Martin, the June 2024 monitoring survey showed progress in many places, but first and last mile frictions remain. Realistically, how close are we getting? Are we to hitting the G20's 2027 speed target?
So I think we have to face up to the fact, and you can work this out for yourself, it's not hard to work out, that we will not hit those targets by 2027. We will not hit those benchmarks. And what that tells us is that the system, the global cross-border payment system, is not as good as it needs to be. And we will, in 27, be having a conversation about what extra work needs to be done. We don't have to have that conversation today, but I think we all need to begin reflecting about what that conversation will involve. Today, what we need to focus on are those first and last mile issues. They're particularly important in relation to remittances and retail. And we're starting to zone in on them, on issues like the impact of sanctions processes on that last mile issue, the impact of foreign exchange issues on that last mile issue, the impact of capital controls on that last mile issue. And we're not pointing a finger at those state policies and saying they shouldn't be there. We're saying if you're going to do them, let's do them well. Let's do them in a well-coordinated way. Let's do them in the way we've tried to do AML controls, where they're done similarly all around the world. Let's try to get away from the particularity that they're done in individual countries. Let's get more commonality within regions. Let's try to link regions together. In that way, we can start to deal with these issues of the distribution point. You know, I walk into a branch of a bank or something like that and I ask to make a payment. That's the last mile issue or the first mile issue. And that's really hits you on that retail segment because they're not going to do it in some central treasury office. They're going to do it out there in the real world. And that's what you need to get right.
And finally, if you could leave policymakers, industry leaders and the wider public with one key message on accelerating cross-border payment improvements, what would that be? And I'm going to leave this very big question to you, Inge, and Martin, you can wrap up.
Well, that's a big question to ask, but the one thing I would like to, I leave it to Martin. The one thing I would like to point out is that one thing that we took from the surveys and the reports that we conducted is that we saw clearly also where certain regions in the world were lagging behind. So one of the things that we've done together with the South African Reserve Bank and the G20 presidency for South Africa is that we've looked at the sub-Saharan sector, because they're really running late on costs. And so much work can be done there. And that's why we've issued this early this year a call for papers. We've now had 50 entrants of papers where we can reduce frictions in that set of regions. So really pinpointing to where it's needed most. And I think that will help us also in relation to the 2027 targets. So all of this effort, all of the information that we're getting from the industry expert is crucial because it helps us to pinpoint where we need to take action most. And for now, for me, the most important region is the Sub-Sahara, not Europe.
And Martin, final words go to you.
I couldn't agree more with that. We're really focused on Sub-Saharan Africa at the moment. But let me make a broader point as well. I mentioned it earlier. I think as we get towards 2027, we all need to be looking at putting together concrete action plans with clear deliverables and a strong, credible sense of what the impact of that will be on the KPIs. We need to move beyond hope towards planning in order to actually tackle this problem in a really decisive way.
Oh, fascinating and detailed conversation. Thank you so much for giving us your time this afternoon, guys. We do hope you enjoy the remaining few days here in Frankfurt. That's Martin Moloney, Deputy Secretary General of the Financial Stability Board, and Inge van Dijk, who is Director of Payments, Cash and Market Infrastructure at the Dutch Central Bank. Thanks once again.